Most amateurs think pushing forward creates a straight shot, and that's why they so often hit the net. Today's lesson is on the backhand loop against backspin. First, let's understand how to generate quality with this technique. I have 3 methods for generating quality on my backhand. My standard loop is powerful, but against professional players, even that can be blocked back. So, my first special tactic is to loop the backspin ball down the line. If that doesn't work, I'll use a heavy topspin loop, not to their corners, but right to their middle. My third option, if the others fail, is to use full power. Based on my coaching experience, let's focus on smart table tennis first. We'll save the power loop as a last resort. If you can only loop cross-court, your only variable to beat their block is power. Because if they're in position, speed isn't enough, a compact block will counter it. However, for amateur players, generating heavy topspin on the backhand is often harder than on the forehand. That's why our main focus today is teaching you how to loop down the line. First, let's compare the motion to a cross-court loop. The first key point for any down-the-line shot, forehand or backhand, is to make contact with the ball earlier. For a cross-court backhand loop the contact point is later, but for down the line, it must be earlier. The timing is subtle, it's not strictly on the rise, nor at the peak of the bounce. When I loop down the line, I only change one small thing. For a cross-court loop, my racket is here. For down the line, the contact point is slightly more in front of my body. That's it. When I loop cross-court, the contact point is closer to my body. But for a down-the-line shot, if the contact is too close, you'll feel jammed and hit the net. So, move the contact point further out in front of you. When looping down the line, there must be some distance between your hand and your body. This shows the difference in contact position for cross-court versus down the line. I'm not changing my timing, just the forward-backward position of my backswing. That's point 1. Point 2. Through my training camps, I've noticed a common problem with students. Many players position their backhand backswing directly in the middle of their body. They contact the very back of the ball and then just push it forward or lift it up. They didn't make contact on the left side of the ball, so they can't create a proper arcing swing path. How do I create that outer arc? My backswing starts near the inside of my left thigh. Starting from this wider position allows for a powerful loop. From the middle, even with the same power, you can't generate the proper arc. You say, is my loop more explosive with this swing path, or with this swing path? The first one, of course. It's the same for your backhand. If your backswing doesn't start from your left side, you can't generate that effective swing path. So for a down-the-line loop, where do we contact the ball? The back, the left side, or the right side? Watch my cross-court and down-the-line shots again. You'll see the difference. To loop down the line, my feeling is to contact the ball slightly on its right side, with a slight lateral brushing feel. Without that lateral brushing feel, I can't get the ball to go straight enough. If your swing is just a straight push, it's easy for your opponent to block, and you won't be able to lift heavy backspin. Actually, it's easiest to loop down the line when the ball comes towards the middle of the table. From this position, if I loop straight, my opponent will be in a very passive situation. Of course, if I were to loop cross-court from there, he could counter to either of my corners, putting me in a difficult spot. When do you hit the very back of the ball? Only when you're first learning and practicing a basic drive. Once you start learning to loop with spin, your contact point will naturally be slightly off-center. Many players struggle with backhand loops against backspin because they contact the ball dead center and then just lift or push. This results in a weak, ineffective motion where they can't generate any real power. Point 3. For a backhand loop, should your weight be on your left foot or your right foot? I've had 2 Olympic-level coaches, one told me to use my right leg, the other told me to use my left. Which one is correct? Top players each have their own feeling, so there's no single correct answer. Here is my summary based on experience. For a backhand loop against backspin, if the ball is in the middle, I load into my right hip. If the ball is wide to my backhand side, I load into my left hip. If I'm taking the ball right in the center of my stance, I use my core and back muscles to drive forward. For example, if I want to hit a wide cross-court backhand, I'll engage my left hip more. If I want to loop down the line, I'll put more of my weight on my right leg. If I use my left hip for that shot, I'm more likely to misread the spin and hit the net. For the cross-court shot, the left hip is more involved, but it's not a large, exaggerated movement like on the forehand. It's a very compact and explosive movement. For the down-the-line shot, remember, weight on the right leg. To hit high-quality shots, you must incorporate your body weight. A common amateur mistake is keeping the torso static and only using the arm. It's simple, the direction of your swing must follow the rotation of your body. Don't let your arm swing independently, or your error rate will be high. Alright, that was point 4. Point 5, let's talk about a lifesaver technique for your backhand. For those who struggle to brush the ball on their backhand, I'll teach you a special trick. Let me demonstrate with a short ball. Watch my racket. Your current swing is a linear push like this, or lateral brushing. Instead, point the racket head toward the table and then focus only on rotating the racket head like this. When you have a robot or a practice partner feeding you balls, using a clock face analogy, move the racket head from the 6 o'clock to the 7 o'clock position, which is in front of your left hip, and just practice that rotation. It's the same for shakehand grip. Rotate to the 11 or 12 o'clock position. You must practice this over the table. If you practice away from the table, you'll go back to using your whole arm, and you won't feel if the spin comes from your arm or from rotating the racket head. Have a partner feed you short backspin to your left side, and just practice this rotation. No matter how heavy the backspin is, if you master this racket head rotation, you can lift the ball easily. Let me explain why. On contact, heavy backspin pulls the ball sharply downwards, causing you to hit the net. Lifting with your whole arm is too slow to counteract the spin. But rotating only the racket head is much faster and can instantly negate the spin's effect. You must get the racket head rotating to generate spin, especially in the backhand system. On the backhand, this rotation is absolutely critical. Even for short balls, this is the same principle as the backhand banana flick. Why can a banana flick lift a very heavy spin ball? And why can't a simple flick? Because a conventional flick involves very little racket rotation. The banana flick generates its arc by rapidly rotating around the ball. So you must get your racket head rotating. For both down the line and cross-court loops, you need this racket head rotation to produce a high-quality, powerful shot, even against heavy spin. This is your safety shot. It's the technique that guarantees the ball gets on the table. Nearly every player with a weak backhand has the same issue, their racket head is static. And they try to muscle the ball with their arm, which is too slow. Okay, point 5. The finishing position of your swing is different for looping down the line, cross-court, or to the middle. For a cross-court loop, your follow-through finishes outside your right shoulder. For a loop to the middle, you finish directly in front of your chest. And for a down-the-line loop, your follow-through extends further out to your right side. A common mistake is thinking you can hit down the line by simply pushing straight forward. Your backhand loop down the line must have a windshield wiper motion. As you move forward, you must also swing sufficiently to the right. It is never a simple forward push. Most amateurs think pushing forward creates a straight shot, and that's why they so often hit the net. The feeling of this down the line shot is exactly like a windshield wiper, but you can't just use a completely flat wiper motion. As you swing forward, that lateral brushing feel needs to be very pronounced if you want to hit a good down the line loop. Remember, any shot with spin can never be produced with a purely linear motion. For example, if I want to serve a side underspin ball, the motion can't be purely front to back or up and down. It can be an outside-in motion, which creates side spin. Or an inside-out motion, which also creates side spin. All spin shots involve an arc. Never move just straight forward and back or straight up and down. That is wrong. Looping follows the same principle, it must have an arc. That concludes this point. Point 6. What kind of incoming spin makes it easier for us to loop down the line? Is it left side spin or right side spin? Let's demonstrate with a push. Serve me some side spin backspin. Serve me some side spin topspin. It's definitely easier to loop down the line against left side spin. I just explained that to loop down the line, you need to contact the right side of the ball. So, against this incoming left side spin, I just contact the ball's right side, put my weight on my right leg, and it becomes very easy. Players, you must remember this, left side spin is the perfect setup for your backhand loop down the line. If you try to loop down the line against right side spin, you're fighting the spin, and you'll likely hit it into the net or off the side of the table. So, whenever your opponent serves left side spin backspin, your swing is actually going with the spin's natural direction. With the ball spinning this way, using a racket angle that contacts its right side makes the down-the-line shot much easier. So when you receive this type of side spin serve, you can produce a very high-quality loop down the line. The second opportunity to loop straight is when your opponent pushes to the middle of the table. However, if he pushes you wide to the backhand, don't force the down-the-line shot, it's better to loop towards the middle. If he pushes you wide, he's waiting to attack your forehand. Looping to his middle neutralizes his next attack. But if he pushes here, to your middle, it's a perfect setup to loop straight down the line. When your opponent is trying to move you, don't be predictable and return the ball right back to them. Change the angle. If they change the placement on you, you change it back on them. My mindset is, if you move me, I will move you. That's how you play a dynamic game. To summarize, the best times to loop down the line are first, against incoming left side spin, and second, when the ball is pushed towards your middle, allowing you to step in and attack. Now, you need to remember the rule for power application on these different shots. Let's say your cross-court loop is at 100% power. Your loop to the middle should be at 80%, and your loop down the line at 70%. Let me demonstrate, using 80% power, and then 70% power. And when I say power, I mean the overall intensity. The brushing, the forward drive, the impact, everything needs to be scaled down together, not just one part. So when you practice, you must feel this difference. This is my 100% shot. And this is my 70% shot. This is just an analogy. You have to calibrate what your own 100% power feels like. The same principle applies to your forehand. Changing direction to go down the line always involves more risk, so you must execute it with control, not just raw power.